There's honestly nothing worse than feeling stuck in your own circumstances that you're just like not happy with, whether that's just like you're in a phase in your life that you're not really proud of, you don't feel like your best self, or maybe it's an environment you're in, maybe it's at work, maybe it's at school. There's just something that doesn't feel right to you and you feel like there's absolutely no way out. I've fully been in those situations where it's honestly this weird cycle where I'm mad at myself because I know that like I'm the only person that can keep myself in a situation, and the feeling of being stuck, I'm not quite sure how to get out of it, but I'm mad at myself because I know like I have the control to get out of it, but it's like, how the fuck do I get out of it? Honestly, what I've been learning is that the situations that I've felt like I'm stuck in really had nothing to do with like the technical things. It's always like something on a much deeper level, of course. That's what I want to get into today. The good thing about feeling stuck is it's just like a sign that you need to tweak some things to get back on the right path. And you'll know when you are, because it'll feel good. It'll feel like you're taking steps, even if you're not where you quite want to be yet. It'll just feel like there's movement. And for me, there's nothing better than feeling movement, because the feeling of being stuck just makes me feel like I'm wasting time, like everybody's passing me by. Like it's just such an awful feeling. And honestly, like all of that is in your head. I'm going to be real with you. You have so much time. You really do. And we just live in a society that is so like, get it done quickly, everything done at your convenience, everything brought to your doorstep. Like we live in probably the worst possible era as it relates to perceiving time, because it makes us all feel so slow and stuck. So here's what I realized was really keeping me stuck. Really quick, welcome to the Because I Love You podcast. My name's Bria and I'm so glad that you're here. If you're new, we always have shows every single Monday in the morning. I'll be here, so make sure you tune in and listen. If you're looking to support this podcast for free, all you have to do is really click in and just listen to the whole episode, because your watch time, your listen time, that is what matters so much. But if you want to add in a little extra, some comments, some likes and sharing, really helps the podcast out. And I just appreciate it so much. It really helps us get the opportunities we want. And I have some really big ideas for you guys coming up. So just know that your engagement is helping us get there. So let's get into being stuck and why we're actually feeling this way. I think a lot of us can probably say that when there's a change we want to happen, there's obviously a gap between your current self, where you are right now, and who you want to be. This new version of you that has something that you don't currently have, or whatever it is, right? On a much deeper level though, some of us are gonna feel stuck because we simply are not ready for the change. It is what it is. I'll use fitness because that's probably the easiest one to grasp, but so many people have fitness goals of they want to look like this, they want to feel like that. What it really comes down to is like, in order to meet those goals, you would have to make changes. You would have to do things that are uncomfortable. You would have to actually do things that you've never done before. Imagine that. When you hear that, you're like, oh, well, obviously. But that's uncomfortable. No one likes to change up their routine. It literally, in your brain, causes a disruption and a disturbance when you do something that is not ingrained in your habits. When you do a task and when you form a routine, it literally forms a pathway in your brain of like, this is what I do. And that feels good. That feels comfortable. It's safe. You know, there's no threats to you. But when you create a new neural pathway with something you've never done before, like if it is a fitness goal, maybe it's you're getting up in the morning at like 5 a.m. to get that workout in. That shit hurt. Okay, for many reasons. It's completely throwing off what you usually do. It quite literally feels like a threat to your brain because this is something we haven't learned yet. But your unwillingness to change is going to be one of the biggest reasons you are staying stuck. It sucks because, and I talk about this all the time, I have such a low tolerance for like people who complain about things and don't change it. Like just change your habits. You can't expect new results with the habits that you currently have. You have to develop something new to get new results. And so I think a big reason that a lot of people feel stuck is because they're not really sure how to make that switch or that change. And that's okay. Like, you have to do some trial and error to figure it out, but you cannot be complacent in your own life and just be like, oh, well, I hope this happens to me, and then be upset when you know deep down you haven't done a damn thing to change the situation. I think that in order to get past this block of change, you have to look at change as incremental and not overnight. You're not going to become that version of yourself. Like, if you had a fitness goal and you're like, oh, I want to have abs for the first time in my life. If you've never had abs before, you can't do that overnight. It's a tough feat for anybody, right? But what I'm saying is you have to start with slow, small, attainable changes. And over time, you can get to that point. And it's not going to feel like this overnight shock thing, because you've been training yourself, you've been training your mind and your body to get to a point where then you can be the girl with the abs. You know, like, if you want abs, honey, you can do it, but do it in a way that's reasonable and safe for you. But some people just simply aren't willing to change, and this will forever be their downfall. Like, I have people in my life that I know who have legitimate medical diagnosis from doctors saying, you are diabetic. If you do this, this could happen to you. And they won't change their habits. They won't change their lifestyle. They continue to do the same thing. They get put in dangerous situations. They've been hospitalized. And I am just like, it really is scary how much some people will not change, because they think that change is harder than saving your own goddamn life. So I know that this shit runs deep, because I've seen it in my personal life with some of my loved ones, where I feel like I have to turn a blind eye because I cannot make you change. I can put in my 2 cents and say, please do this. Please, like, make this change so that you can be better, so that you can be safe. And it's not going to be enough unless the person wants to change on their own. Like, you have to want to change. You can change. You're not the first person that's probably had whatever goal it is that you want. You are not the only person in the world to probably have that goal. There are other people who have made the change too. Look to them for inspiration, get inspired, but more importantly, be reasonable that, like, you can give yourself time to make a massive change. Another reason that I think people have been quote unquote stuck in their situation, this is coming from like my personal experience, so like I'm fully exposing myself here, but there was a point when I was really down, mental health not the greatest, last year, where I was so fixated on like what everyone else was getting. The comparison monster gobbled me up, and we were locked in. We were buddy. Like, me and the comparison monster were best friends. They say comparison will kill you. That is not an understatement. I was so focused on what my counterparts were getting in terms of opportunities, just being frustrated and upset. Like, the influencer industry is a doozy, okay? Let me tell you, it is a doozy. There's a lot of conversation around like, oh, some influencers aren't being treated fairly, like da da da. I have completely unsubscribed from the narrative, because I realized that me trying to champion the fairness in the influencer world is going to kill me, and it's going to kill my joy for being an influencer. And I know that sounds like really shitty to say, like, oh, like you're not going to fight for. No, I still fight for, but not in the ways that you think. I'm not going to continue to bring it up because it doesn't serve me. It was like really hard for me last year to get online and see like literal racist influencers who say the N-word, and there is proof of this, seeing them get like signed 6-figure deals, and then me feeling like I'm working so hard and just not getting there. And I'm not saying like none of that isn't true, but what I'm saying is, fuck it. My success is inevitable. If a racist influencer who says the N-word is going to get a 6-figure deal, more power to them. I'm not going to sit there and be upset about it, because they are taking that power from me still, right? I'm going to continue to do my thing, and I'm going to continue to shine, and I'm going to continue to win over here, even if it takes me longer. I realized I cannot focus on what other people have going on, even if I think they are the worst kinds of humans. Because somewhere in karmic law, I just know that everything will balance itself out. But it was really hard for me. I had to go through this, like, I guess, unfortunately, this acceptance period of being like, the world really isn't fair. It's really not. And I am sitting here wasting my talent, my energy, being upset that I feel like there's this unfairness, and I could just keep inspiring people and I could just keep putting the content out and I'll just let it work itself out, because I believe my success is inevitable. Because last year it wasn't happening when I wanted it to happen. So I was like, oh hell no, this shit is so fucked up and unfair, and like, this is really how it is. Of course you want to speak up and like fight for that, right? And I'm not saying that I'm being silent about it, because I'm talking about it right now. But what I am saying is, if it's going to diminish my success, it's not worth it. Now, some of you may not agree with that, and that's okay. But what I realized in that time was I was really keeping myself stuck by focusing on what everyone else was doing. Now, even if it wasn't like a valid reason, like I think racism is a valid reason. Even if it wasn't racism and it was some other reason, like let's just say I didn't fuck with the girl. I didn't think she deserved it. Maybe I was just a hater. Sometimes we're just haters. Let's be honest, guys. Sometimes we're just haters and we don't have a good reason other than we are jealous motherfuckers. And that's okay. I'm not judging you, honey, but I am saying that you're going to have to put the hater habit down for a minute, and you're going to have to focus on your own craft. Because the girl that you're worried about and everything that she has going on, she is not worried about you. She's sitting there eating her cake and winning. So what are you going to choose? You know what I'm saying? You're wasting your time sitting there like flustered over someone who doesn't think about you because you think they don't deserve something. Let's not argue over it. Why don't you just get to work? Why don't you just prove why you do deserve it instead of being a fucking hater? And that's just real love, because I said it to myself, so I can say it to you too. I've been a hater. What does it do for you? Maybe in that moment it makes you feel a little good and justified, but like, let's be honest, it's not doing anything for you, and it's all you're doing is wasting your time. So for me, when I decided I was going to be happy for other people, that really changed the trajectory of where I was going. Let's go back to the example where like seeing racist influencers get huge opportunities like is a trigger for me. Absolutely, yes. Block. That's the solution now. Block and scroll. I'm not going to sit there and continue to watch it and continue to consume it. I'm going to move on from it. That opportunity is one opportunity out of so many, and that opportunity is meant for them, for whatever reason. But to sit there and try to validate yourself by hating on someone is probably one of the most toxic, poisonous things you can do to yourself, because you're actually letting that other person win. You are. So drop it, block and scroll. You need to follow people you're actually happy for. And I'm going to be honest with you. If you cannot be happy for other people and you continually have to like find a way to shit on other people and their accomplishments, and you just like genuinely are never happy for anyone, dig into that a little bit. I want you to dig into that just a teensy bit, because there's something going on there if you cannot be genuinely happy for other people. And I'm saying that with love, not in an attacking way. If you really want to receive an abundance of like blessings in your own life, you have got to stop with the jealousy, and you have to get to the root of why you can't be happy for other people. And most of the time it has nothing to do with that person you're jealous of. It has to do with something going on with you. And I think it's worth figuring out so that you can experience life to the fullest and you can let that shit go. Another reason I notice that people get stuck sometimes, and this is something that like I don't do, because I'm very impulsive when I make a decision. For whatever reason, being impulsive has actually been a superpower of mine, because I don't do it often, but when I do it, it's usually for some big dramatic reason, and it usually works itself out, right? But there are some people I've noticed, before they take a step and try to make a change, they have to have every step listed out. Like, okay, well, what do I do then? Like, what's the first step? What's the second step? Third, they need the 12-step plan. And I think that with a lot of these bigger changes that you guys want, as it relates to changing yourself, changing your environment, your situation, or whatever it is, you have to understand that you don't need the 12-step plan. You just need to take the step that feels the best, that feels the most aligned with you. Take the step that gives you this jolt of energy. Follow that. Don't try to have everything figured out to a T because you're sitting there wasting your time. And I think at the end of the day, we subconsciously will waste our time by trying to figure out a plan when really that's just procrastination. You're not figuring out a plan. You are just wasting your own time. If you have step one, that's enough. That's enough to go. There is an influencer named Pia Mance. She says a lot on her podcast. Done is better than perfect. Done is better than perfect. And there's another person, well, I've actually heard this in a lot of places, but people who use the term, I need to fail fast. Oh my God, I love that. Knocks my socks off every time I hear. I love when people use that term, I need to fail fast. Because yes, those are the people who get exactly what I'm saying. We don't need perfection. If you can fail fast, you can figure out what doesn't work and you can move along to what does work. Failing is such a good thing because it gets you that much closer to figuring out what does work. So why are you afraid of failing, babes? Like, you've been lied to, okay? Fail fast. Take action. Take a step. I do believe that done is better than perfect in some situations. And the more that you choose to get things done rather than focus on perfection, that's how you actually get better at your craft. That's how every time you do hit completion, it continues to get better and better. But if you're so focused on making it absolutely perfect with no imperfections, first of all, what fun is that? But it's going to take you so much longer. You know what I mean? I think your ability to lean into failure is one, going to speed up the process for you, and two, going to make you honestly so resilient in whatever you're trying to achieve. Now, this one might be a little more confusing, but being stuck sometimes is a result of being really impatient. In my head, I'm picturing like a hamster on a wheel who thinks that, think of the person who's like, well, if they feel busy, if they feel like they're doing something, they think they're making progress. But think of the hamster on the wheel where like the hamster could be going to town, but like, where is the hamster going? Absolutely nowhere. When I think of this point, I think of the hamster on a wheel analogy where it's like you are so impatient, you're filling your cup too much. And normally I would never say like, oh, you're doing too much, because taking a step is good. But I think this is the opposite, where said person is taking too many steps with no intention. You need to have a bit of direction. And that's why I say one step is better than no step if it's an intentional step. If it's a step that feels super aligned. If you're just making moves and taking steps to fill your space and time, that's not intentional and it's not actually serving you. And you would be better off, like at that point, just not doing anything. But I want to be careful saying that because I don't want you guys to actually not do anything. I just want you to make sure that you're not just making yourself spiral and doing a bunch of busy work. Because this is another form of avoidance. This is another form of procrastination. And on a deeper level, you probably know that, but you're avoiding. Now, and this one's a little bit on the deeper side, but I think when it comes to knowing that you want a really big change, like one thing for me that I really wanted to change in my life at one point was making more money. Deep down, I was afraid of what would that do to the people around me? Would they perceive me to be different? Even though I knew like I wasn't going to pop out like Mariah Carey, I was just always scared that like some people might not want to be around me anymore, or maybe they would change the way they acted around me if I did make more money. Would my friendships feel more superficial? Like, because these were all like limiting beliefs that I got from TV. Like, rich people are snooty, rich people are, they're fake, they're superficial. Like, these were all limiting beliefs that I had to finally work through. But I was scared that I would lose my circles, my loved ones. Because what I had seen is that money changes relationships in a bad way. So I was always like nervous that that would be the case. And it wasn't, but it was nice that I could become aware that I had that fear, that I was afraid me changing in that way would cause my relationships to change, so that I could debunk that in my life. But I think whatever change you have, sometimes it can feel like, man, like, am I going to have the same friends? Is my family going to look at me differently? Like, are people going to treat me different? And the truth of the matter is, things might change. People might treat you different. Again, going back to fitness goals, like we see it all the time, people talking about how they get treated differently when they looked different sizes. It's really shitty, but at the end of the day, I think it tells you more about the other people around you more than it does yourself. Because you didn't change, your appearance changed, and then that caused some ripple effect in your circles. So it's a hard thing to accept, and I can't promise you that that wouldn't happen. It might happen. But I think what you can do is maybe have a plan. What if it does happen? What will you do in that situation? Is that worth a conversation? Is that worth bringing it up, depending on who the person is? If you have some kind of plan in action, I think that'll make you feel drastically better than just shying away from actually making the change because you're afraid of losing people. You have to remember that you're going to be surrounded by who you're supposed to be surrounded by. The people who are supposed to be around you are going to be around you and support you no matter what. So if somebody falls out of your life for some reason, yes, that absolutely sucks. But wouldn't you rather have people who are genuinely there for you no matter what situation or circumstance you're in? Like, that's the kind of energy you want in your life. And sometimes it just becomes a little more obvious when we actually make real change in our life, who is really about us and who's really not, unfortunately. But these are like the main things that I've found were keeping me stuck last year when I was really frustrated with my current situation, just not feeling like I was making any movement. I look at that now as like one of the biggest blessings because it forced me to analyze like what was going on, like why do I feel stuck, what needs to change exactly, what's not working right now. Like I really had to get reflective on my life at that time. And what it really came down to was I was just doing so many things that weren't actually serving me, and I had to make some tough decisions. I didn't have the best people in my corner at that time, and I knew that I was going to have to cut some people off, and that really hurt me. But the second that I did, things started to move again. So sometimes being stuck is just like the universe trying to wake you up. Like, listen, we can't continue to move forward until you let go of some of these things, because you are not going to be the most happy, healthy, wealthy version of yourself if you take this baggage with you. I think too, in my situation, I just didn't realize that I had these attachments to people who were not looking out for me behind the scenes, and it was going like under the radar. This is again where I'm like, there is something divine looking out for me, because they were like, absolutely not. She will not be taking any more steps until this person is gone. And it was crazy. The second I had like cut this person out of my environment, the ugliness in them came out like I have never seen before. I literally have the emails to prove it. But thank God that it happened. And I remember being so hurt by the things that they were saying to me. But I also remember being like, I can't believe this person was in my life. That was a huge reason at the time that I was stuck. And from there, it just felt like I kept cutting these cords and I was finding this movement again. I was like fluid in my work again, and everything just started to work out magically. So don't look at being stuck as this like hate crime against you. No, something is looking out for you, just trying to help you figure out what's in your way so that you can move forward in the best way possible with the best people possible. I'm telling you, it's a good thing. So anyways, thanks for joining, you guys. If you liked this episode, share it with your friends, put it on your story, tag me, baby. If you'd like to join our Patreon, it's linked in the description below. And as per usual, I'll see you guys next Monday.